YogiTriathlete just launched a brand new website. We have unrolled Squad. Squad is a virtual group coaching community like no other in the endurance sports space. We've got years of amazing content in there. Yoga for athletes, mobility classes, race course recons. We've got training plans from ultra marathons to Ironman, everything in between. We have a group coaching call every month. We have live streams, live classes, so much stuff in there, and a great community of people who are awake and ready. You will never have to train alone again with this virtual community. 7-day free trial. Get over there right now. Sign up for it. We'll see you in Squad. Namaste.
And you just don't know
where
this is going to take. If you scripted 2016, that Ironman, you're going to sign up, you're going to live there, you're going to spend all this time, you're going to train, get really fit, and then you're not going to be able to race.
Oh, and you're going to get to
And you're going to have to watch the whole race. I wouldn't have done it. If I wouldn't have signed up for that if I had known. But I can see now how beneficial that experience was. So it's hindsight, right? And I talk about this a lot too. Steve Jobs talks about connecting the dots. You can't connect them moving forward, but you can look back and you can say, oh yeah, this is all making sense now. Well, don't get caught up in trying to make sense of the things while they're happening. You need to keep moving forward.
Yeah, it's not the time. That's the whole thing about the pause, right? It's like a time where you just don't need to figure anything out. Just give it space. Allow things to organize on your behalf. You'll be cued in when the knowing is ready for you. And in the meantime, clear the space. Sometimes we have to just take a little break and walk away from things in order to get the clarity, right? That's the pause. Welcome to the first episode of Pause, the interim series of the YogiTriathlete Podcast. After producing the show weekly since 2016, we took a few weeks off in August. We felt a shift happening, though we weren't sure exactly what it was, so we chose to wait. And for the first time, with this podcast, we paused. Soon, inspiration arrived, though, and we found ourselves documenting our first series-focused podcast following the journeys of 5 incredible athletes to the finish line of their first Ironman in Arizona. Included in this group of exceptional human beings from Team YogiTriathlete was our very own coach, Melissa Gans, who absolutely crushed the distance and someone who gave us all a glimpse of her immense possibility and potential as an athlete and coach. That series has now come to an end, and once again, we find ourselves resting in the pause. And so welcome in. Welcome into this space with us, the space between the end of one thing and the start of another. We're not quite sure what our next series will look like, but we do know this gap, this moment of transition, it's worth exploring. It's where the magic happens, the pause between stimulus and response, desire and manifestation, dream and realization. We invite you to join us as we riff on life from the pause. We'll dive into the power of reflection, waiting, and listening to what comes next in life and sport. We're so grateful to have you with us. Let's get started. Welcome to the show, BJ.
Thank you. Good to be here on the new series. I always love starting something fresh, too. We get to create, right? Creativity, creating something that's never been done before. That's what is so fulfilling about doing these things. And we just don't know where it's going to take us. And that, to me, at least recently, has just been so exciting.
I think that's the whole thing about the pause. It's you don't always know where life is taking you. And that uncertainty, to just be able to cultivate the skills so that you're able to rest in that pause when you have uncertainty. Something's coming, you might know a little bit of the flavor of it, you might know what it looks like in the end, but you don't really know what that next big step is. And that next big step could be just being in the pause, right? The action and the inaction of action, they're both the same.
They are.
They are.
Yeah. Yeah,
not doing something is still doing something.
Right. You're actually taking action into not doing something.
Right. And so, we see this all the time with athletes making choices about workouts, right? Sometimes they'll choose to not get the workout in or cut it short or do secret training.
Or secret training. Yes. I didn't upload the 4-hour workout. keeping us on our toes. But that place is it can be a very fun place to live in. It can be a very scary place to live in too. Absolutely. I think it's all in how you practice it. I saw in the yoga studio this morning on the wall, it was just the quote that we reference, or at least I reference quite often. It's just, we are what we repeatedly do. So if we're consistently repeating not getting up in the morning, no wonder we're not getting up in the morning, because we're constantly repeating that practice. So pause is such a great space to interrupt that. If you can just stop, look at this situation, waking up in the morning, look at it. Like, why am I not waking up in the morning? Can I change my alarm system? Do I need to change when I get up? Do I need to change my night routine? Do I need to have some purpose? So there's actions that you can take, but you need to take that pause to have a little moment of reflection on what cycle you're currently stuck in.
Well, the pause just in and of itself breaks the cycle.
It does, but that's not enough.
No, it's not enough. No.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere in your life where you are, well, besides the podcast, where you're like in a pause to any big or little degree? I don't know how much you know about the pause that you're in. Like, are you...
Well, I guess we could also
anywhere?
look at each other's pause, like from the perspective of what I see in you and what you see in me. That would be kind of fun. But what do you see in you? Start with me first. So where am I pausing, interrupting? Well, I just don't know what's next in terms of when I'm going to start up this focused journey to winning my age group in Arizona. That's being thrown out there. It's my goal. I just don't, I'm in the space of, I don't know. And I actually love this right now because I have no evidence of me actually running at all. Let's not talk about the pace I need to hit on race day 11 months from now. Right now, I can't even run. So no pace. So pace is irrelevant. But I love being in this, I will call it the pause, where I don't know. I don't know when that's going to start up. I don't know how that's going to look. Just kind of stepping back and witnessing everything that's coming in front of me. And right now, it's feeling good to just do yoga every day and walk. That's kind of like where I'm at until something comes to me. And if you want to backtrack just, a week ago, I didn't know what was next in terms of what I was going to do as I start to feel better. And then it came to me when I just did nothing, was a heated yoga practice for 30 days.
Do you feel like there was like an inspiration to do something starting December 1st?
Yes.
Because the team was entering into, team was entering into a 6-week bike camp. So it was like we all kind of jumped into a focus. So it's good to ride that.
Yeah.
Right? So there was inspiration, but you weren't sure what it was. But then it came, and it came kind of at the right time because you were able to start. You see, actually, I think you started on the... No, you started on the first.
Well, here's what happened. I did have the idea, and I think I mentioned it to you, that I might as well do bike camp too, see if I could do it. And then that was so quick because it was like, that's not a good idea. Haven't been cycling. Can't really, push right now. So I quickly kind of just sat in the pause and see what was going to come next. And then we had our anniversary, and I remembered, so last Friday was our anniversary, 22 years. I realized I had 2 classes at the hot yoga studio. And I was like, and it was my year for our anniversary. Every year, if you don't know, Jess and I switch off. The even years are mine, odd years are Jess's, where you decide what we're going to do that day. Could be nothing, could be something. And I booked the classes and we went to the hot yoga studio, and it came to me when I was there that this feels really good to be in the heat and steam and to flow and breathe. And then it sparked the memory of the years I was coming back from my experience in Newport, and how did I come back from that? I quickly, in my mind, went to the moment of going to your class at Newport Power Yoga when I shouldn't have been going. Meaning the body was not ready for it.
Yeah, you were injured.
I was injured, but I went to your class and I did what I could do. I remember I couldn't get into Warrior 2. All I could do was just kind of like stand there. But I was in the heat and the humidity. And I remember walking out of your class that day. And this is my introduction to hot yoga, because I wasn't really doing much hot yoga at that point. And it felt really good. Felt really good. So you can see how the memory actually is helpful. But let's backtrack. It was a pause. It was an openness, a space that was opened up that allowed that flowing energy to come in, that memory to come in. And then I connected the dots and said, okay, this is what the next step is. And I didn't go into, well, if I do 30 days of yoga, I'm going to run right after, and this is going to happen, and that's going to happen. Now you're starting to control, get your fingers into what could be such a beautiful, adventurous, unknown experience. And that's what I'm seeking. So constantly keeping my fingers out and just letting this really just manifest in front of my eyes. And that's how that came about. You can't script this stuff. Like, I didn't script, I'm going to do 30 days of yoga any earlier than that. It just came.
So how did it feel? What was the feeling of the inspiration when you were like, yeah, I'm going to do 30 days of yoga?
Oh, skyrocket. I was so fired up. This is it. This is the jam. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, 2 days later.
I was going to say, so today was day. Today's day 4.
Do as I say, not as I do.
I could tell this morning. I was picking up this vibe of like, you're like, okay, shit's getting real, and it's day 4, and you were like, yep, 100%. You're like, I'm already feeling it. But it's so funny so this is so good because we talk about the pause, and then you get the answer. And if this was a movie, that's where the movie would end, right? The person has the answer. They never have another issue again.
Well, happily ever after.
4 days later, you're like, oh, crap. Like, I got to get up
I got 26
again
more
in the
days.
4 o'clock hour.
Yeah.
But you also don't have to go to 6 a.m.
I don't.
yoga every day.
There are plenty of classes. I think tomorrow there's like 12 classes I could go to.
But it's so funny how it's, you get the inspiration, you take the action. Okay, well, life, like the cameras are still rolling, right? Like, life is still happening. There's plot twists. There's like mornings where you're like, I don't want to go to yoga. And you gotta keep going. You gotta keep showing up.
I've got this reel playing in my head of Alistair Brownlee that he posted from an interview he did the day after he retired. And he talks about, the key elements to peak success. And one of them was consistency. And the main one was consistency. And so this is what's pulling me to get up every day at 4:45 to get to a 6 a.m. yoga class. That's really what it is. It's pretty simple. I don't need to investigate it or understand why or whatever. It's not that I'm not consistent. It's just, again, I'm just feeding this hit that I have. And so I'm going to follow through with it. And so we'll see what happens after 30 days. So far, my body's feeling pretty good, Yeah, of course, I'm sore in areas I haven't been sore in a while.
Yeah, typically, like when we go on yoga retreat, and even we were just in Sedona on the yoga retreat, and we did. I had done a class when I arrived, but like for the actual retreat, we did 3 classes, and both Jennifer, was my co-host, Jennifer, and I was like, "Are you sore?" She's like, "I am so sore," like from 3 classes. So when we go on like these week retreats and we're doing yoga twice a day, it's so awesome. You get so strong, but it catches up with you like after a couple days, especially when you're doing 2 a days.
And it's interesting that we're always doing yoga. Like we'll do 10 minutes of yoga at least every day, in some manner, mobility yoga. And you're like, but you start stringing together hour classes.
Yeah, hours no
back
joke.
to back to back. Mm-hmm. And I think you said on our anniversary that you hadn't been to practice for a full hour in quite some time in a heated studio.
With somebody else teaching?
Yeah.
No. Oh, in a heated studio? No. But probably the camp where we rented that. You were teaching, so I was practicing. Yeah, it's been a while. probably the last class that somebody taught me was almost a year ago at our women's retreat here in California.
So it's good to see, like, yeah, as much as we practice yoga in little increments here and there,
those
10 to
hour
15
classes
minutes,
are like no joke.
When you string together an hour, that's legit. Like, you're starting to, but again, the body's going to adapt. The mind is going to adapt. You're going to get into the new routine, right? And doesn't the body and mind love routine? Right.
So, and then the 30 days is going to be up, and then you're going to be like, oh, remember when I was getting up and I was like going to, it was so awesome. And it's like, well, no, on day 4, you were like,
right. Yeah. And again, the mind will never be satisfied.
Yeah.
There's always something. All right. So that's one of my pauses. What do you have? What have you got? Going?
I think mine's in the pause around adventures and retreats. And so, I think there's great value in going back to a place every year. And this would be the second year of going both to Patagonia and to the Galapagos. And I thought it would be the Galapagos that I would go back to. But then recently a couple of people have asked me if I'd be going back to Patagonia. And I was like, oh, I hadn't really thought of that before. And well, yeah, I do love it there. I thought it was going to be the good. So then it kind of like, I was like, I guess I don't really have my answer yet about what to do. So I'm not going to do anything right now for, 2026. But what I am doing is I'm backtracking a little bit, looking at what I have. So we have the Galapagos in April, and we have, France in October. I think it's the 11th to the 18th. I should check that, but yeah, check that for me. And so those are the knowns. So focus on those. I'm excited about France.
Get ready.
And
because what?
Oh, there's our Spotify AI wrap up playing. But yeah, so I didn't know. So I'm backtracking to what's on the calendar, and then what are the destinations that I've talked about going to, and thinking that I'm going to say a yes to it. And that would be in 2026, Kenya, which is a massive event. That's a big adventure to Kenya. And I had been talking about that this summer. And then also, of course, returning to Costa Rica with Megan and Valerie, which we haven't done that in a couple of years. So I'm now backtracking, going, okay, well, what was I saying? What were my early yeses and so let me investigate those while I kind of pause and don't make an investment in anything right now. And then focus on what is already a go, right? Patagonia, the Galapagos, and France in October. So yeah, there's a part of me that I just want to lock down adventures for the next, I don't know, as long as I'm on the earth. But I also want to be really thoughtful about them, because when I commit to something, especially like this, I commit. And so there's minimum numbers that need to be made. And if those minimum numbers aren't made, it looks different from my end and from the end of the people that I'm working with. But when I make those commitments, I'm very clear on, what the risk is, and, the people who sign up, they matter. And this is such a, incredible thing for them that I consider that in the decisions to move forward with these things. And then sometimes there's retreats that just nobody signs up for. So then those kind of go away on their own. And then I look at okay, well, what were the seeds that were planted? It's funny, this is I think the second time now that I've been called to go to Europe, but it didn't work out the first time. So I'm excited to, this is a new adventure too with the Travel Yogi in Provence. So it's wine, it's kayaking, it's a little bit of we do a little bit of biking. I think they're e-bikes. We go up to this ancient medieval town, and yeah, it's slow living. It's food and wine. We go to wineries, so it's wine and wellness in Provence in October. But yeah, I'm kind of in that pause where I'm just waiting for more clarity. So it's not, we talk a lot about take the leap, live the dream, blah, blah, blah. But in that, there's a lot of pausing that takes place, because when we feel those pauses are necessary, right? Because it's we still live in the material world. So we still live in a world of cause and effect. So every every cause is going to have an effect. Every action is going to have a result. And so if you're just like, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do this, like, it's not reasonable. It's not, something's going to have to go. Right. And so it's being thoughtful and grounded in the decisions that I make so that I can move forward like really strong and determined and, seeing the trip through. So right now, not having clarity of that is telling me to kind of like just, okay, back off, give it some space, go in reverse, see what you were talking about and what the state of those trips are now. And then move forward. So it's exciting because I don't know how it's all going to land and come together, but we shall see.
I think that's what we both have leaned into, is just the unknown, as being very adventurous and curious about what lies on the other side.
I've seen like way too many miraculous things happen. There's too many people that they'll just be like, they'll see the trip and they'll be like, yes. And then all of a sudden you go from like 2 people on a trip to like 6 people on a trip. Like I've just seen that so many times that like, I don't know, I just believe in that unknown and that, to expect the unexpected and to hold the line through however it feels, like high or low. Yeah, I've just seen way too many like instantaneous miracles that have unfolded since like leaning our mindsets into this like belief and possibility and trust, and that it's all happening for us and that we're never victims to life. Like there's a lot of miracles and rewards that come along with that, along with the challenges. But I feel like, rewind 25 years ago, it was more challenges than it was rewards. Like the highs were just super high and it was maybe like, I don't know, getting drunk at brunch. But I mean, like life itself was just, there was a lot of fun and everything, but it was like, it was more bummer things that happened in the world. And now it's like, I don't know, there's all these challenges, but then there's all these joys and all these miracles. And it's just kind of like, I guess the mindset is like, you kind of just look at it all the same.
Yeah. It doesn't have the weight.
It's all an adventure.
Used to have before.
Yeah. It doesn't have the weight.
Yeah. And I think that comes from experience, but also we have the approach of if it doesn't happen this time, then it'll be next time. Or if this didn't, or I guess detachment, right? Because it's not happening the way that we want it to. Well, it wasn't this time, but it'll be next time. And if it's not next time, it'll be the next time. So we're not attached or gripping too tightly to how things all have to play out, like specifically. Timelines. I guess timelines, yeah. But, detachment, I can't remember what I was listening to, but it's such a superpower. And I think I've said that before myself. I feel like that's such a superpower. So set the intention, set the goal, pause, get some clarity, move forward, and then detach. And let whatever is going to unfold. Now, I'm saying that pretty confidently and calmly here, but that wasn't always the case for me. But I had to learn the hard way, and I was awake to that tendency to attach. And I realized that attachment was causing me sadness and frustration and anger and all the emotions. And I didn't want that anymore. I wanted to have some clarity and purpose moving forward. When
was that? Do you remember? Because that seems like the thing that really leans you into a new mind.
Yeah. Well, I think when I first remember actually executing it was Lake Placid in 2016.
2016. Okay.
Yeah. That's when I remember executing it so well.
And you got really sick the week before the race. I got really sick
and couldn't do the race.
Yeah, but don't assume everybody knows that story, right? Like, so you got really sick.
Yeah, we were there. We had left on our journey, Ride the High Vibe Tour. We'd sold everything and sold the house, packed up the car, started our adventure in Lake Placid, New York. And we were there for 5 weeks, training on the course in the lake, getting comfortable and familiar with the town and the people and the community, which we love.
And a local virus.
And a local virus that came the Monday before the race. And we had to check into the hotel early, and I couldn't leave the bathroom or leave the hotel. And we had to crew. I remember the crew from Newport was coming up to race it as well. And I just kept every day showing up. What can I do today? Nothing. Okay, great. Thursday came. I need to register. Great, I registered. And all of that, now I'm thinking about it, all those steps I took to the point in 2016 when I woke up on race morning and you asked me if I could race, and I was like, there's no way I can race. Like, I can't leave this place, this bathroom. Still, like, all of that momentum that I built to live in the possibility was the same thing that I experienced not too long ago in Kona. Mm-hmm. So you could say, like, the foundation was laid as I was making choices back then. So 2016 is when I really, and then 2 days later I felt better and I did a video that said, hey, I get this thing now. It's detachment. I just got to detach. All right, cool. I got this. I don't have it. I'm much more clear on it, but I don't have it all figured out yet. But it is a superpower. I've had so much more elation and joy and surprise in my life and moments of just sheer gratitude because I have detached from outcome.
Which is all about the pause. Which is all about when you see how pissed you are that things aren't going the way you want them to go.
It's so.
I mean, I see that all the time. Again, like I just said, like I can go from 2 people signed up to 6 people signed up in 15 minutes, right? I can also go the opposite direction. I'm just like, why don't people want to go to extraordinary places? But that is such a misstatement. That is such a untruth. People do want to go to.
You're narrowing it down to your specific
and one little, whatever. I'm just using an example here, right? Like, thankfully, actually, I've never had a loss like that happen where I lose that many people from a trip. But am I losing anything? No, right? Like everything is a seed planted. So, of course, people want to go to extraordinary places. It's it's aligning with that energy, right? And that's part of my responsibility too. Like, what am I focusing on with these adventures and things?
And you just don't know. Where this is going to take. If you scripted 2016 that Ironman, you're going to sign up, you're going to live there, you're going to spend all this time, you're going to train, get really fit, and then you're not going to be able to race.
Oh, and you're going to get. And you're going
to have to watch the whole race, right? I wouldn't have done it. Like, if I wouldn't have signed up for that. If I had known, like, they were like, here's this all going to play out. But I can see now how beneficial that experience was. So it's hindsight, right? And I talk about this a lot too. Steve Jobs talks about connecting the dots. You can't connect them moving forward, but you can look back and you can say, oh yeah, this is all making sense now. Well, don't get caught up in trying to make sense of the things while they're happening. You need to keep moving forward.
Yeah, it's not the time. That's the whole thing about the pause, right? It's like a time where you just don't need to figure anything out. Just give it space. Like, allow things to organize on your behalf. You'll be cued in when the knowing is ready for you. And in the meantime, clear the space. Sometimes we have to just take a little break and walk away from things in order to get the clarity, right? That's the pause.
I'm starting to think, and maybe this is a good question I'll ask you, but like moments in the past where you weren't even aware of the pause, but you now can reflect on it and say like, oh, wow, you were pausing. And I just remembered like web design, and I'd be trying to figure something out coding wise. And I would walk away, go get a coffee at Starbucks, and then come back 15 or 30 minutes later, and I had it all figured out.
Don't call it Starbucks.
Okay.
Don't bring that in. Don't call it Starbucks. Okay.
And I would come back and I would to the computer and I would figure it out. And then it all made sense.
Yeah.
And what changed? I didn't do anything different on the computer. It just, I opened up the space. I stepped away.
Yeah.
I paused. How about you? Can you recall anything you weren't purposefully pausing?
My whole life, writing. My whole life with writing. So writing and then being like, oh, the sentence isn't working. And then just walking away from it and then coming back. Or the idea hadn't fully come in yet and then come back. I mean, I remember that as long as as soon as I could put pen to paper and I knew how to make words, I was writing. I had journals, and as far back, I remember my first journal was this little tiny light blue one with gold trim, and it had a lock on it, and then tiny little lines that I had to write on, and I it was like trying to like fit my penmanship
Oh my
in
God,
there.
your
But I
writing's
have like
so big.
I know I have big
Takes up 3 lines.
big penmanship. But I think I was still trying to stay within the lines back then. I was so young.
You get agreements sent back to you because you get out the lines. This is not legal.
That is a true story. Recently, I colored outside the lines of this form and it didn't go. I had to do a new one. Anyway.
So funny.
Yeah. So I remember that as a kid, like, and through high school, college, even up to writing Awake Athlete. It's like when it doesn't come, I got to just take a pause.
But you didn't purposely walk away from it to find some clarity, or did you?
What do you mean?
Like when I would step away from the computer, it was just because I would want to get a coffee or something. Like it wasn't like I need to step away from this, create some pause, create some space. I just did it, and now I reflect on it. And I'm like, oh my God, that was really a moment of pause. Like I wasn't purposely doing it intentionally.
Yeah, no, I was like, I've always kind of just given it space and then come back to it. Like when I get stuck, give it space, come back to it. So I guess I did know I was giving it the pause.
Well, there's no wrong or right. I'm just saying I most often would grit through it. I'm going to figure this thing out and be up all night and then finally get it. But then I just recalled in this conversation, like I remember walking away. I don't know why. And then coming back.
I think we're hardwired for those things. Like when something big happens in life or we're really stressed, like everybody just knows instinctually to take a breath.
Well, do they?
I do. I think so. Like you see it in movies and stuff where, something big happens, maybe something traumatic happens in life. Somebody they love, they get word that person, died in a movie or something, and like, they take a big breath. I think we are hardwired for that. There's a part of us that knows
that pausing is
pro health
needed. Yeah.
And it can also be detrimental to our health if we just fall in the pause and we never get out.
Well, that's the other side of it.
Yeah, we're talking about the effective use of pause.
It's like 5 years have passed. You're like, I'm pausing. I don't know what I'm going to do with this.
Yeah, no.
I don't know if I need
that.
This Garmin mount or this Wahoo mount.
No, that pause needs a pause. That pause needs a pause. That's what happens there. But that would be hard. You'd have to really fall, I think, negative to just fall into the pause and never come back out. Yeah, so I think writing just creatively, but instinctually, right? Like stepping away. I don't really know if I would have called it a pause back then, but that was what I was doing.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't have called that pause.
No, but there are some times where, like when I was writing Awake Athlete, I remember being outside and just like sitting there no matter what for an hour, like just read it through. Like can you like, I can't get anywhere with this paragraph, but let me just read through now, so I'm keeping momentum going. I'm going to read through, maybe it'll come through. But, so there needed to be time in the book. I couldn't be pausing every 2 seconds, to write this book. So there was times where I had to kind of pause right in front of the screen.
Well, that's pausing, not stopping.
Right. Okay.
So 2 different buttons.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Pausing is, it's going to start up again.
Right.
But stopping is like you're done writing.
Right.
Yeah. So I like pause because it's still building. You still have momentum moving forward.
Yeah, you're still active.
Yeah.
You're actually active in the pause.
Yeah.
Like you're actively
I like that.
opening up, or you're actively focusing on something else to give the thing that you need clarity on space. And it reminds me of, I think it was the first year we did our Costa Rica retreat. So it was like 2021. Pretty sure it was 2021. And this woman came on, and because she just needed like clarity. She was like in this job. She was making a lot of money, but it was like super toxic, corporate America. Like she just, for her, these are her words, not mine, right? Like just very unhappy, like knew she needed a change, but like didn't know how to get out. And like, what do you do without the money, right? Like, what do you do when you're getting paid really well? And like, that's so scary. So she came to Costa Rica. She was like, I just knew I needed like radical change. I needed to step away completely to get clarity. And she got clarity. And she ended up going back, quitting her job, and like starting her own business. And she's so creative, and she's a yoga teacher, and so I think I'm sure she's not without struggle, but as life will continue to roll the cameras, but she's definitely happier and sharing her gifts, for sure.
And that comes from getting off the hamster wheel of life, where you're cycling through the same things over and over again. And your desire is that you want something else, or you see somebody else have something and you desire that as well. Like you believe you're worthy of that too, but you just don't have the pause or the space to kind of think about or imagine what that life would be like for yourself. That's a good place to start. Like, use your imagination, this thing that we were so gifted with and used so often when we were younger, and then our imagination gets pushed aside and we don't feed it anymore. But that's the place to play in if you are truthful to yourself and you want to make this change. Because life is short. Life is so short, man. Like, it's so short. There's an urgency to do what you love. And if you don't know what you love, find what you love. There's an urgency in finding what you love. So listening to this and you're like, I need to find out. I don't know what I love. Like, pull the car over and literally sit there and pull out your notepad on your phone and start typing words, the things that you love. And something will come from that. But if you don't know, you better start now. I mean, you got to start now.
Yeah. You can also just look at, like, where do you have ease in your day? There's something there too when you're easeful.
Not efforting, right? And that goes back to
like where you're just kind of in your authenticity. Yeah. Teaching or reading your kid a book but I think that stepping away on something like a yoga retreat and that's really powerful for anybody who needs clarity around something big in their life. Like, it's just to have that radical shift away from your life. And you don't even, you can go on retreat and get to work on it, and take that time to journal and meditate and visual, or you can just kind of take that time away and just go in for the sake of going in and see what you find.
And the retreats are such a great avenue for that, because you're in with like-minded people. Like, everybody is there. Why? Because they wanted to escape something in life. They wanted to move away from what they were currently doing to experience something else. Now you've got all these people together, right? You've got the energy of the collective, and then you can just be you. Most likely you don't know most of the people there. You can just be yourself. And it's an opportunity to play the game of getting off that hamster wheel of life and take that time to use your imagination. Like, wake up and don't go to the breakfast that everybody has. Just wake up and go for a walk on the beach. And how often do you get to do that? Thinking Costa Rica in my mind right now, because I would do that. Like, get up super early and get down to the beach and walk it. And I can do that here, but there was something about being away, being there, not having an agenda except for yoga and breakfast.
Mm-hmm. I know.
And more yoga.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the clarity that you get, is like your whole life gets like completely simplified into, receiving yoga practices each day, receiving food prepared for you, like receiving slower pace living. Like, that's huge, because until we slow the momentum down, we have to slow the momentum down to have like a sustainable look into, what is going on in our life and, how we're actually creating our reality through our thoughts and things like that. Even just like I said, like, why don't people want to go to extraordinary? No, of course people want to go to extraordinary places, right? It's just reframing, go into that opposite thought, but like, we have to slow down. And when you are in an environment like a yoga retreat with people of like mind, it's so much easier. It's so easy to slow down, even though you can feel, it will take me sometimes a good 24 hours, because I'll still feel kind of the momentum of travel and things. But as you sink into your environment, for sure, it's so nurturing and such a good nurture for your nervous system and your brain and your adrenal system. Huge.
And it plants seeds for you to, re-emerge into your everyday life when you leave the retreat and be able to really focus on one thing that you can change when you get back into that environment, because your environment will always be stronger than your will, and implement that change. And then go on another retreat the next year and implement another change, and then continue to do that and watch how things begin to literally change in your life and shift. But you got to be aware. You got to step out of it and be aware. You got to pause. You got to get out of this daily routine. I have no time, or I have too much to do. And man, you make time for the things you want to do. You really do.
I think there can be like a fear of fallout too, right? Like I remember when we were thinking about pausing the podcast, like in August, like I think I felt a little hesitation from you, because I was like, okay, we're just going to take a pause. Like we had just relaunched the brand new website, launch squad. That was a lot. And I always want to do things thoughtfully, as thoughtful as I can. And I just felt like it would be like this rush thing, trying to get guests just for the sake of getting guests. And it just didn't feel good. And, that was the gift there, to be like, you know what, we can't be scared of what's going to happen. Our loyal listeners are our loyal listeners. And, it's okay if we're gone for a couple of weeks. And when we come back, like whoever's going to be there, or maybe there's going to be new ears that can start listening to the show. There can be fear of fallout, right? Like, how could I step away? Like, oh my God, I could leave my spouse home or my partner home with the kids, or I'm a single mom or dad and I have to figure out childcare. And it's all like, you always say to me, BJ, like when I'm making these decisions to do something, I'm like, yeah, but this, and this. And you go, yeah, but that's all logistics. It's all logistics. Like that's all figure outable. That's never a reason to not go.
Yeah. Everything, details. Right? Details. That can all be figured out afterwards. We live in the world, this magnificent world where everything has already been thought out for us. We just listened to Spotify tell us our favorite songs and the time that we listened, and what
we're in the top 3 listenership of Armin van Buren
or Gareth Emery.
Oh, Gareth Emery.
But there's things that are available to us to create all the details, but we tend to get all caught up in the details. So I think Abraham Hicks talks about that. Like, start a spreadsheet, and at the top you put like what is your dream, what is your goal, what is your desire, and then let all the stuff fill in as you go along. So the details will fill in. You don't need to know all the details at first before you go on this pursuit. So Arizona next year, I don't need to know all the details of all the workouts, of all the sessions, all the stuff. I just need to know that's what I'm going after. And I trust everything's going to fall into place. I'm going to have an adventure. I'm going to use my imagination. I'm going to soak up this experience yet again and again, see what happens. But again, this all comes from learning over time, being aware of what is bringing me discomfort or frustration or anger or sadness, and not wanting that anymore, not feeding that anymore. It's a courageous thing to do, I would say. It's a brave thing to do. It's
tricky too, because you recognize something like, I don't want to be sad anymore, right? Like, I don't want to be sad anymore. I've had people tell me that, clients of mine tell me that. I don't want to be sad anymore. I'm not going to be sad anymore. And so those are like such great turning moments, but it's so tricky because you will be tested. You will be tested with a situation that has the potential to make you feel really sad. And you can look at that and say, see, I could never be happy anyway. Or you could say, oh, here's that test to see how much I want to not be sad anymore. Like, and I think that's just a mindset shift, right? I mean, I think it's truth that it's coming, because you're like, okay, well, how bad do you want it? This is a test. You don't want to be sad anymore. How good is your word?
Well,
feel and I wanted just to make the discernment always that like feel what you're feeling. That's super important. Don't put it in the vault. That doesn't work. Feel what you're feeling, but don't dwell in that sadness. Feel what you're feeling, but don't get attached to the thoughts about it, because that's where you get into trouble. Those thoughts are such troublemakers. Get out of those thoughts, and then you can move through an experience in your life that would in the past have the potential to bring you down into like sad city, but yet you feel the sadness and you move forward anyway, knowing that it's there to test you, to say, how good is my word? I don't want to be sad. And I know I have a lot of momentum towards sad things in my life because I lived that way for so long. And this is me just off-gassing all the results of those past actions.
Yeah. And we're going to be, you mentioned this a lot, like you're going to be given the opportunity again and again and again until you learn what you need to learn.
The tests are relentless.
So we've always been given tests. We have just fallen into the pattern of our conditioned response all the time until we say no more. Until we say no more. Not this time. I'm not going to feel sad this time. I'm going to feel sad, but I'm going to continue to move forward anyway.
Right. Yeah. It's like, you got to feel what you're feeling, but
and relate this into the sporting realm, because, we are in endurance sports. Injury, bad race performances, we're served up tests constantly. So we have to keep showing up to get to that moment when all of a sudden you have that great race experience, or you have that performance that you want, or the training session, or whatever it is. But all these opportunities are constantly flooding in. Mm-hmm. They're constantly there. And we have to give ourselves that chance to work through it. One and done is not, most often not possible.
No, it's not. Again, it's not the movie where they get what they want and then they fall in love and then the movie ends. It's not. Like, there's another test chilling out a couple blocks down.
And just when you think you get it, you get that thing, another test is coming your way. Yeah. So if you just like say like, okay, I expect it. I was just talking to an athlete today about, the cold water in Arizona. I'm in Arizona. Like, just expect it to be cold again next year. Okay, now we don't have to worry. Now we don't have to indulge and bring our thoughts and attention there. Like that's just, we can just expect it. Mm-hmm. Now we can move on to the other things. What else can we focus on that will get us through that day a little bit more quickly and calmly?
It's not even the water, it's the air temperature that's so cold. You're like cold before you get in the water, right? The water actually feels warm.
No, you're in a wetsuit, so you're pretty warm.
But your toes have to be like
your toes
really
are cold. Yeah, so wear socks and
pause.
Awesome. So pause.
Take a breath. Yeah. I was gonna say like PAWS. You have like pause.
Oh my god! No.
Because your hands are so frozen.
Oh yeah, you have like claws.
Yeah, pause. They're like pause. You're just like pawing at yourself in T1. All right, let's wrap it up.
You want to wrap it up?
All right. Yeah. So we are. We want to move into another series. We'd love ideas that you have. We've thought about power couple series. I've got a couple people on my list of like truly extraordinary feats
of strength.
Hopefully we can get those people. I only have 2 people on the list, so I know you guys, I'm talking to listeners, people who have done truly extraordinary things. I'd love to hear about them. So yeah, let us know. Let us know what you want to see, what you want to hear, possible ideas for series. All of it's welcome, and we'll put it in the pause pot, and and we'll see what manifests from here. So thanks so much for joining us, and we'll see you again soon.